Most people watching this don't think of themselves as traumatized parents. They just think they are tired of trying to do the right thing, tired of questioning every reaction, tired of wondering if they already messed something up that can't be fixed. You love your children deeply. And that's exactly why this hurts, because somewhere inside you, there's a quiet fear that says, what if I'm repeating something I promised myself I never would? Maybe you grew up with absence, silence, shouting, pressure, or emotional distance. And you told yourself, I'll do better. But now, when your child cries, shuts down, explodes, or gives up too easily, your body reacts before your mind does. You get tense, you rush to fix you, overprotect, or you harden. And later, when the house is quiet, guilt shows up. Not because you don't care, but because you care so much. Many parents live with this invisible weight, the feeling that strength means pushing through pain, that love means rescuing, and that limits mean rejection. But what if the behaviors you're trying to correct are not the real problem? What if the real story lives deeper in the nervous system, in patterns learned long before you became a parent? Some of you are watching, thinking, I wish I had known this earlier. My children are already teenagers, adults, maybe even distant. And you're asking, is it too late? Others are in the middle of the storm, overwhelmed, stressed, juggling work, grief, finances, or doing it alone, wondering how to stay calm when you never had calm modeled for you. This video is not about perfect parenting, and it's not about blaming yourself. It's about understanding why we react the way we do, how pain passes through generations without words, and how awareness can interrupt that cycle. Real strength is not raising children who never struggle. It's raising humans who can feel struggle without breaking. And that begins not with techniques, but with understanding what lives inside you first. If you stay with me, I'm not going to give you a list to memorize. I'm going to help you see yourself with more clarity and less shame, because when parents heal, children don't have to carry what was never theirs to begin with. Before we talk about children, we need to talk about adults, because every parent brings a nervous system into the relationship long before they bring any strategy. Most of us were never taught how to feel safely. We were taught how to behave, how to perform, how to stay out of trouble, how to be strong, how to not need too much. And when a child comes into our life, they don't just need our rules, they feel our state, they feel whether the adult in front of them can tolerate emotion or not. This is why so many parents say, I know what I should do, but in the moment I can't do it, because knowledge lives in the mind, but reaction lives in the body. When your child cries and your chest tightens, when they get frustrated and your jaw clenches when they fail and panic rises in you, that is not bad parenting. That is your nervous system remembering something old. Many parents watching this grew up with emotional neglect, pressure, abandonment, or chaos. Some were praised only for results. Some were shamed for feelings. Some learned early that love was conditional. And now, without realizing it, they try to protect their children from the pain they once felt. But protection can quietly become control. Rescue can quietly become mistrust, and strength can quietly become suppression. This is where the confusion begins, because you are told, validate emotions but don't spoil, set limits but don't traumatize, let them struggle but don't let them suffer. And inside you, there's a child who never got validation, never felt safe to fail, never had someone stay present through discomfort. So when your child struggles, your system says danger, fix it now, or shut it down. And later you feel guilt and shame, not because you did something wrong, but because part of you knows this reaction is not aligned with who you want to be. Many comments under this video said, I wish I had known this before, or I did everything wrong, and yet my children turned out fine, or I'm exhausted, and I don't have the capacity to be this calm all the time. And all of those can be true at once. Parenting is not about doing it right, it's about becoming more conscious of what is driving you. Because children don't need parents without wounds. They need parents who are aware of them. Awareness does not mean perfection. It means slowing down enough to notice what belongs to the present and what belongs to the past. When you begin to see that, your urge to rescue, your fear of frustration, your need for control, or your avoidance of conflict all make sense. Given what you lived, something shifts, compassion replaces shame, and responsibility becomes possible, not the heavy responsibility of doing everything right, but the honest responsibility of saying, I will not pass on what I never chose. And this is where real strength begins, not in the child, but in the adult nervous system, learning to stay present. Many parents believe they are teaching strength when they teach their children to push through, to be tough, to not cry, to move on quickly. But what children actually learn in those moments is not resilience, it is disconnection. They learn to disconnect from their own inner experience to survive the relationship. This doesn't happen because parents are cruel. It happens because parents are afraid, afraid of emotion, afraid of losing control, afraid of seeing their child suffer in ways they themselves once suffered. And this fear often comes from how love was experienced growing up. If love was withdrawn, when you failed, you may not panic. When your child fails, if love came with pressure, you may unconsciously pressure your child to succeed. If emotions were ignored or punished, you may feel overwhelmed when your child expresses them. And this is where patterns pass quietly from one generation to the next, not through intention, but through the nervous system. Many comments under the video reflected this realization. People saying, now I understand my partner's perfectionism. Now I see why my child shuts down. Now I see why I react the way I do. Awareness is painful at first because it removes the illusion that we are only reacting to the present moment, but it is also liberating because it gives us choice. When a child experiences frustration, sadness, fear, or anger, their nervous system is not asking for a solution, it is asking for co-regulation for an adult who can stay grounded while the storm passes. This is how the brain learns safety, not by being rescued, but by being accompanied. When parents rush to fix, remove consequences, or intervene immediately, the child's system learns two things: that discomfort is dangerous and that they cannot handle it alone later in life. This shows up as anxiety, avoidance, emotional dependency, or the inability to tolerate frustration. Many parents in the comments struggled with this tension, especially around bullying limits and authority, wondering if validating emotions makes children weaker or manipulative. But validation is not permissiveness, it is recognition. It is saying, I see your experience without surrendering the boundary. A child can feel angry without hitting. They can feel sad without being rescued. They can feel frustrated without being abandoned. This is how the prefrontal brain develops, through repeated experiences of feeling intense emotion while staying connected to a calm adult. And this is where parents often say, I can't do this, I wasn't taught this. And that is true, but what you were not given can still be learned. Safety is not something you explain, it is something you embody. And when parents begin to regulate themselves first, something remarkable happens. Children don't need to be controlled as much because they feel contained. Strength is not built by avoiding pain, it is built by learning. That pain can be felt, survived, and integrated, and that lesson begins in relationship. One of the most common questions in the comments was, is it too late? My children are already teenagers, adults, distant, angry, anxious, and underneath that question lives grief. Grief for what wasn't known, grief for what couldn't be given, grief for the parent you wish you had been. And here is something rarely said clearly. Healing in parenting is not limited by the age of your child. It is limited only by the level of honesty and presence you're willing to bring. Now, many adults carry anxiety, depression, addiction, perfectionism, or emotional numbness, not because their parents didn't love them, but because their nervous systems adapted to survive environments where emotions were not safely held. When parents began to understand this, they often feel crushed by guilt. But guilt is not what heals connection. What heals is responsibility without self punishment. A teenager who avoids discomfort, an adult child who struggles with regulation, is not asking you to go back in time. They're responding to what their body learned long ago. And the most powerful intervention at any age is change in the relational field. When a parent stops defending, stops explaining, stops fixing, and instead becomes curious, something shifts. This does not mean you say, I did everything wrong. It means you say, I am learning now and I am willing to see you differently. Many comments reflected this. Longing grandparents asking how to help adult children. Parents wondering if anything can still be repaired. And the answer is not through lectures, advice, or techniques, but through presence. When you listen without correcting, when you acknowledge pain without justifying, when you say, I didn't know then what I know now, and I'm open to learning, your body sends a new signal. Safety is possible here, even now. This is not weakness, it is profound strength. Many parents fear losing authority if they soften, but authority rooted in fear creates compliance, not trust. True authority comes from emotional steadiness, from limits held without hostility, from boundaries that protect rather than punish. And this is especially important with adolescents who are not rebelling against rules as much as they are testing connection. They need to know that frustration will not cost them relationship, that mistakes will not lead to withdrawal, and that autonomy does not mean abandonment when parents can tolerate their own discomfort without projecting it onto the child. Children at any age feel less alone, and here's the most overlooked truth. Children don't heal because parents explain better. They heal because parents regulate better, because the nervous system learns through experience, not instruction. When you change how you show up, even late in the story, you are not erasing the past. You are giving the present a different quality. And that alone can soften years of tension. Strength does not mean never being affected. It means being able to stay connected through what is difficult. And that capacity can grow at any stage. Many parents in the comments struggled with a painful contradiction. On one hand, they want to be loving, conscious, present. On the other hand, they feel overwhelmed, stressed, tired, angry, and sometimes they simply don't have the capacity to respond calmly. This is where modern parenting advice often fails because it speaks to the mind while ignoring the body. You are told to breathe, validate, listen, choose your words, but when your nervous system is already flooded, those tools disappear. This is not a moral failure, it is biology. When a parent is chronically stressed, overworked, grieving, or unsupported, their system operates in survival mode. And in survival mode, the brain prioritizes control, speed, and threat. Reduction, not connection. This is why parents snap, yell, withdraw, or overreact even when they know better. And then shame takes over. Many comments came from mothers and fathers saying, the theory sounds beautiful, but real life is chaotic. Children don't listen. There is bullying, ADHD danger, and real threats, and they are right. Context matters. Presence does not mean passivity, and validation does not mean allowing harm. But regulation always comes first, before discipline, before dialogue, before teaching. If your body is dysregulated, your words will not land. And children are exquisitely sensitive to this. They don't respond to what you say as much as to how you say it, to the tone, the tension, the speed, the micro expressions. This is why some parents feel their child only listens when they are angry, because anger carries intensity, and intensity cuts through dissociation. But fear based intensity teaches obedience, not self regulation. The goal is not to remove authority, but to ground it. When a parent learns to pause, not perfectly, but enough to notice their own state, something changes. The pause does not fix the child, it protects the relationship. And this is especially important around limits, frustration, and conflict. Many parents fear that if they don't intervene immediately, their child will be harmed or will become weak. But strength is not built by avoiding difficulty, it is built by meeting difficulty with support. Frustration is not the enemy. Abandonment is. A child can tolerate disappointment, anger, failure, and discomfort if they feel someone is emotionally present nearby. What they cannot tolerate is being alone in it. This is why some children become explosive and others collapse. Both are responses to overwhelm without containment. Many adults watching this recognize themselves in their children: the perfectionist who cannot fail, the anxious child who avoids challenge, the teenager who numbs out the adult who still seeks approval. These are not character flaws, they are adaptations. And when parents understand this, they can stop trying to force change and instead create conditions for safety. Safety is not softness, it is consistency, predictability, emotional availability, and limits that are clear but not cruel. When a parent says, I won't let you hurt yourself or others, and I'm staying with you while you feel this, the child learns something powerful: emotions are survivable. Relationships can hold tension, and I don't have to disappear to belong. And this lesson is far more important than any technique because it becomes internalized over time and carried forward into adulthood. Real strength grows slowly, quietly, through repeated experiences of being seen, not fixed, guided, not controlled, and supported, not rescued. The final question many parents ask quietly is, how do I break this cycle without becoming someone I'm not? And the answer is not through perfection, but through presence. You do not need to erase your history to parent differently. You need to understand it. When parents stop fighting their own reactions and start listening to them, they gain choice. The urge to rescue, the impulse to control, the fear of conflict, the need for results all carry information about what once felt unsafe inside you. And when you meet those parts with curiosity instead of judgment, they soften. This is how cycles end, not through force, but through awareness. Many people in the comments spoke about faith, God, gratitude, and values. And regardless of belief, what they were pointing to was meaning, connection, something larger than technique, because parenting without meaning becomes mechanical, and parenting without compassion becomes rigid. Strength without tenderness becomes hardness, and tenderness without structure becomes chaos. Children need both, but they need them embodied, not explained. When a parent learns to repair after rupture, to say, I was overwhelmed, I raised my voice, I'm sorry, and I'm learning, something profound happens. The child's nervous system learns that relationships can survive mistakes. This is one of the greatest gifts a parent can give, because no child needs a flawless guide. They need a real one who can hold limits without humiliation, who can allow frustration without abandonment, who can model growth rather than demand it. Many adults watching this realize that what hurt them most was not discipline or struggle, but feeling unseen, unheard, emotionally alone. And this is why the deepest work in parenting is relational, not behavioral. You cannot raise emotionally strong children by teaching them to suppress pain. You raise them by showing them that pain can be felt, named, and integrated without losing love. And if you are listening to this thinking, I wish I had known this earlier, Remember, awareness arriving now is not a failure, it is an opening. Healing does not follow a timeline, and connection does not expire. Every moment you choose presence over reaction, curiosity over control, and compassion over shame, you are changing the emotional climate around you. And children feel that even if they cannot name it, strength is not the absence of vulnerability, it is the capacity to stay human under pressure. And that capacity can be learned, practiced, and transmitted. When parents do this work, children are freed from carrying what was never theirs. And that is how real resilience is born not through toughness, but through connection.